Hello, my name is Morgan Youngerman, and I'm going to be talking about concrete poetry. Concrete poetry, also known as shape or pattern poetry, is an arrangement of linguistic elements in which the appearance of the words is more important in conveying the meaning than the words within the poem are. European artist Max Bill and Oyvind Falstrom originated the term in the early 1950s. During this period, concrete poems were intended to be abstract and without allusion to an identifiable shape. An interest in ideograms and the notion that words themselves could be ideograms accompanied the typographical innovation developed by these artists and by such visual writers as E. E. Cummings and Ezra Pound. As the movement spread across the continents, reaching the height of its popularity in the 1960s, concrete poetry became less abstract and was adopted by many conventional poets as a specific poetic form rather than a combination of literature and visual arts. In response, some artists adopted the term poesia visiva to describe more experimental fusions of word and image. As with much visual art, concrete poetry and poesia visiva now use photography, film, and even soundscapes in combinations with letters and words to achieve new effects. Concrete poems are made to tell the story through the image of the poem, not the words in the poem itself. My first artist is Lewis Carroll. Lewis Carroll is an English writer from the United Kingdom. His best-known works, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, written in 1865, and Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There in 1872, are still enjoyed by readers throughout the world and have been adapted for radio, television, and motion pictures. He started writing at a very young age, with his poem being written at the age of 13. In his diary entries for 1855, when he was 23, Dodgson, which is Lewis Carroll's real name, reveals his frustration for failing to do his mathematics, having been enticed into the more attractive activities of reading and writing. He has a sensitivity for animals, which can be seen in over 5 of his poems, including his concrete poem that he wrote, The Mouse's Tale. The Mouse's Tale by Lewis Carroll. Furry said to a mouse that he met in the house, "Let us both go to law, I will prosecute you. Come, I'll take no denial, we must have a trial, for really this morning I've nothing to do." Said the mouse to the cure, "Such a trial, dear sir, with no jury or judge, would be wasting our breath. I'll be judge, I'll be jury," said cunning old furry. "I'll try the whole cause and condemn you to death." This poem comes out of the book Alice's Adventure in Wonderland and is written in chapter 3. Since this is a concrete poem, you have to look at the poem as a whole and not line by line. The mouse begins to tell a poem to Alice about his background, where he refers to his story by the term tale. Now Alice, being as young as she is, mistakes this tale to be the mouse's actual tale, which is why the poem is written in the shape of a mouse tail. Lewis Carroll was using play on words and homonyms to show the complexity of the English language in the form of a concrete poem. Now when the poem is straightened out and set in traditional stanza form, you can see that each stanza takes the form of a mouse, with 2 short lines forming the body and a third longer line forming the tail. A poetic structure known as a tail rhyme, which is a pair of rhyming lines followed by a single line of different length, is heard when you straighten out the poem. In traditional tail lines, the caudal line, or tail, is shorter than the rhyming couplets that precede it. Carroll lengthened these caudal lines in the 4 stanzas of his Mouse's poem, and by doing so made each stanza, when set out in a traditional form, physically resemble the shape of a mouse with a long tail. Stephen Neville is the author of the next concrete poem, the Starlight poem. He is very famous for this specific poem, but he is not famous for any other work. The Starlight poem by Stephen Neville. Starlight, star bright, start shining in the dark of night, over a cavern deep and dark, inside the cave of babies born, who shall die on the cross. But do not mourn, for he is the one to save our race, for we have fallen from grace. 3 kings and 3 shepherds have come by your light, through this cold, dark, and wintry night. Stephen Neville wrote a poem called Starlight, which plays on the old children's poem, Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. The poem, which is written in the shape of a star, is about the star that shined over Jesus after he was born and led the wise men to where he was located. In order to maintain the shape of the star, the lines and words used become shorter and shorter to allow for the elongation of the arms and legs of the 5-point star. The bottom 2 feet of the star are the last 2 letters of the word night, demonstrating that even keeping words together is not necessarily an important part of the form. The way the words are arranged into the shape of a star keeps the visual concept of a star always before the reader's mind as they read about this famous star. In order to keep the shape of the star until the very end, the words at the end of the poem are broken up. With concrete poetry, the visual is the most important thing and allows for the breaking up of words in order to maintain the image.